as it were. It is known that the first 45 Alleghenies were seriously overweight. The contract called for a delivered weight of 724,500 pounds, when in actuality the delivered engines, particularly the first 20, weighed 775,000 pounds. Where the discrepancies, some problems were due to the weight overruns on supplied components, notably the one-piece cast frames, which were about 10,000 pounds heavier than expected. Much of the remainder was due to elbow juggling by AMC engineers when they visited Lima during the detailed design period. Typically, a visiting AMC official would look at a drawing for a part, observe that it didn't look big enough, and instruct the draftsman to make it slightly bigger, even though the part was correctly sized to begin with. Multiply this by 3 or 4 such visits on each part, and you end up with a significant overweight problem. About 50,000 pounds, almost 7% of the total contractual weight. The actual weight proved not to be the problem, and the engines operated quite well on the C&O, a testament to the quality of the extensive right-of-way rebuilding undertaken by the railroad in the 1930s. The real issue is that Lima and AMC, both of whom were aware of the discrepancy, concealed it from the Chesapeake and Ohio, reporting to the railroad that the engines weighed the contracted for 724,500 pounds. It is understandable why Lima would have done this, since it would have faced substantial financial penalties for the overrun. Why the AMC chose to conceal this, and in fact encouraged Lima to do so, is less clear. One can only speculate that the AMC officials had such a personal investment in the engine that they were embarrassed by its overweight, perhaps realizing that much of it was their own fault, that they couldn't bear the idea of tarnishing the engine's reputation in any way. However, history has done that anyway. On a personal side note, the fraud was revealed when the Virginian took delivery of their 2666 and inquired with the C&O about the possibility of routing them over the C&O for delivery. The C&O initially rejected their request, asserting that the VGN engines at 7,000 pounds. Here's a picture of 1624, as you can read, at summit altitude in Allegheny in June 1949. It was just cut off of a pusher from an eastbound coal train and in turn traveled back to Hinton. Light. G. Nettleson photo. Chesapeake and Ohio Society. Okay, onward. At 753,000 pounds, were too heavy for the C&O's trackage. The Virginian responded by observing that Lima had told them that the C&O's own 2666s were some 20,000 pounds heavier. This is obviously news to the C&O and resulted in the 2 H8s being sent back to Lima for reweighing. The C&O sued Chesapeake and Ohio sued Lima, and the resulting settlement reportedly wiped out all the profit Lima made on the first 45 Chesapeake and Ohio H8. The last order of H8s built after the weight discrepancy was discovered were put on a diet of sorts and delivered at 751,000 pounds utilization. It has been asserted that over the years that the superpower engine, the H8, was underutilized in heavy coal service. Was it? In a word, no. The H8 did exactly what the C&O wanted, hauled more than the H7 at a faster speed and more efficiently, while retaining the ability to start its train from a stop on the steepest part of the grade. On the toughest part of the grade, the 18 miles from Sievert to Allegheny, a pair of H7s took an hour and 45 minutes to cover the distance for an average speed of 10 to 11 miles an hour. During the testing, the H8s made the same run in about 44 minutes with an average speed of 24.5 miles per hour, while two Alleghenies were hauling their 11,500-ton coal train up the steepest part of the grade, 0.57%. At their normal road speed, they were developing between 10,000 and 11,000 horsepower, 5,000 to 5,500 each at the drawbar. True superpower performance. By the way, of comparison, the two H7s with a similar train would be running about 11 miles per hour and generating about 5,800 horsepower, or about 2,900 each. The extra horsepower capability of the H8 allowed it to haul the coal train up the grade about twice as fast as the engines it replaced. Even in coal train service, the H8s certainly weren't underutilized. On a side note, of course, superpower engines were usually known for their high-speed freight pulling, but they did what they were designed to do. The enduring image of the H8 is of it pounding up Allegheny grade at 18 to 20 miles an hour with a 145 car coal train. What most observers are unaware of is that to produce twice as many gross miles per train hour as the H7 on the entire run from Hinton to Allegheny, the H8s routinely ran the portion of the line along the Greenbrier River from Hinton just beyond Ron Sievert at anywhere from 30 to 45 miles per hour. It was only when the line left the water level route along the river just beyond Ron Sievert and the grade doubled did the train slow to its usual running speed, which, as we just mentioned, was twice that of the H7. When used in non-coal service, the H8s showed they could run with the best of the locomotives. During World War II, they were assigned to very long hospital, troop, and prisoner of war trains, numbering anywhere from 20 to 40 passenger cars, and they easily made passenger train speeds with these very heavy trains. CNO's excellent J3484s called Greenbrier on the Chesapeake and Ohio, and K4 284s known as Conwas on the CNO were routinely assigned to the passenger trains on this line, and the load exceeded 12 to 13 cars. The Greenbriers and Conwas were assigned a helper. Similarly, when assigned manifest trains, the H8 could easily match the speeds attained by the CNO's excellent K4 284s with heavier trains. Those configurations, by the way, were that of like 614 and 765 respectively, and of course Pure Marquette 1225 Berkshires, but they called them Conwas on the Chesapeake and Ohio. On a side note, the simple fact is that the H8s were superpower locomotives designed primarily for use on heavy coal trains, and in that service they were hugely successful when needed. And if one was available, they were certainly capable of running faster on a lighter train. But with a CNO's point of view, that was a bonus. Was the H8 underrated? Yes, it was. The tractive effort rating was determined by an outdated formula, assuming that only 85% of the boiler pressure would be available at the cylinders. On the Allegheny, this figure is more like 92%, so the maximum actual tractive effort of 118,000 pounds exceeded the rated tractive effort of 110,000 pounds by about 7%. In addition, the tonnage rating on the Allegheny subdivision appears to have been determined as much by lengths of passing and yard tracks as anything else. In particular, the passing sighting at Allegheny played a part here. The sighting was just over 7